Good morning, good morning. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for our first training session of the new year. So welcome. This training is all about the skills for a new agent or a newer agent. I will be honest with you, I think universally this training applies to any experience level, regardless if you new, if you've been in the business for 10 years, 15 years. So these six strategies are all about building a stronger, faster real estate career. So buckle up, take some notes. Of course, if you're not watching this live, you're going to be listening to this recording, and I'll be sending you the presentation slides as well. Okay. Well, before we kick this off too much, I just wanted to introduce myself if we've never met virtually or in person. My name is Drew DeMaree. I'm the owner and founder of an independent real estate coaching company called the Freedom Companies. Like I said, we are an independent brokerage. Independent coaching company. We are not affiliated with any brokerage. We're in multiple states in the United States here, and then I'm also coach individuals and teams in Canada. So slight plug for myself. If you're looking for a real estate coach in your market, I'd love to chat with you and talk to you about if we can help you in any way. I have been a realtor for 20 years. So, so I've been a realtor for 20 years. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about is just the skills and foundational elements, just to be a better realtor in the market that you're at. Okay. So let's get started with our training and kind of go through that. So the first thing I want to talk about is a lot of what we're going to talk about is what we call the compound effect in real estate. So again, if you're a newer real estate agent, we sometimes think, or we hope for, we kind of have this silver bullet of how we can increase our production or make more money faster. I will tell you that everything in real estate is what we call a compound effect. There's actually been a book written about it, so I put that on the screen. Um, a lot of it's just the consistent choices you make. The more consistent you are in this business, of course, over time, the more income you're going to make. So today we're going to talk about those kind of compound effect skills that you're going to need to kind of level up your business. Okay. So some of these slides may seem kind of basic. The reason why I did that is because I want to make sure this is simple. So when you walk away from this training, you are not feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling the ability to implement something as quickly as possible without overthinking it. I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes um, I overcomplicate business. I overcomplicate the system. And so the first example, the first thing we're going to talk about is what I call the bubbles. And so this is all about the first skill as a real estate agent, newer or experienced, is we got to be around people, right? This is a contact sport. And so the first thing I give this example, and I'll send these slides to you, is you've got to find at least five different ways for you to interact and network with people in your community, right? And so what I call their bubbles, right? So what are your hobbies? What are you already spending time on? Who do you hang out with? That's super important. When I ask agents what are their hobbies, unfortunately, a common thing is they don't have a lot of hobbies, right? Or maybe they used to do sports in high school or college, or they used to do certain things, but life pulls you in different directions. This is all about networking. And so this slide is you've got to find five ways to connect with different people. And it may not feel like it's a business connection at first because it's a kind of common things. So a lot of the coaching clients that I really want to work with and kind of drill down on is you got to start to hang out with like-minded people, right? So I'll give you an example. These are the five bubbles of just different people that I coach. Um, and over time, they build personal relationships, but they actually build business relationships and they get referrals. So specific one that kind of speaks to me on this screen is pickleball. I have one coaching client as kind of like an avid pickleball player. Has gotten to a point where he's got a league. He's got a group of 7 to 10 people that he meets and plays pickleball with every single week. So over time, doing this activity, doing this hobby, obviously he's talked to them like, hey, what do you do for a profession? They ask him the same question, and he of course says, I sell real estate, right? So they're going to like, trust you, and they're going to build that relationship with you. I have another coaching client. She's got a group of ladies that meet for a book club every single month. They pick a different book, they meet, do some wine and cheese and things like that. She's gotten 3 real estate transactions just from her book club, right? So the reason why I start out with this is if you don't have a network of people to hang out with, you've got to figure out what that would be, right? So I have some people that are into craft beer, so he meets up with some of his VMI buddies at a craft beer place once a month. I have somebody that meets up, she's into volleyball, so she meets up with her volleyball ladies and they do dinner once a month. So regardless of your personality, meaning you may be more introverted, more extroverted, the first skill that I would definitely coach and recommend is that you need to start hanging out with more people. Your goal is to increase your sphere of influence and talk to people that have similarities to you, right? It will then naturally come up in conversation that, oh, by the way, I'm a realtor, and oh, by the way, I can help you, right? So I challenge you to fill this out when I send this to you. If you only have 2 bubbles right now, you got to find 3 more, right? So super important that you have at least 5 different bubbles. And I would tell you again, compound is over time. This is a moneymaker, game changer strategy. So make sure you're finding ways to interact and connect with people. Um, even I popped in my head. I have one. She is a divorced. She's been divorced for a little while. She created this really cool like divorce dinner club essentially. So once a month they get together. They do like a themed dinner at her house. They even have a closed Facebook group. I mean, I can tell you she closed 12 transactions just in 2025 from her divorced group bubble, so to speak. So again, compound interest is super important. Okay. Next thing is you always have to have a plan. And so I think we're pretty natural in this time of the year where everyone has probably maybe done their goal setting for the year. But I will tell you, it's not about the yearly plan, it's about your weekly schedule. So this is a screenshot of a weekly planner that I use. Um, oh, well, I don't know if you can see my face, but um, I'll do this real quick. This is my planner that I use every single day, every single week. So this is a way for you to kind of see different things that are going on in your business. Sorry about that. Move this out of the way for us. Okay, so you kind of can see that if you can see my video screen. So the reason why I bring this up is that one of the second skills is you kind of need to have a roadmap or a plan every single week. So I wouldn't necessarily focus on monthly, I'd focus on weekly. And so let me just go to slide 2. I don't know why this thing is being a little weird. Hold on, I don't know why. Um, what is happening? Sorry, I don't know why my little guy was. All right, sorry. So this is the example of a different, it's the same thing as this before. So it's literally my weekly plan, but it's in a different format because I wanted to show you what I have or what you should do in a weekly situation. So what are your priorities for the week? I honestly think there shouldn't be more than 3 different priorities, right? So in this example for this week, my goal is to obviously lead generate for the week. I want to communicate with my database. So I want to be really specific inside my database. And then I want to work on some marketing strategies for the week, right? So these are different strategies that I would do for each week. So the first thing I kind of would say is that you got to figure out what your priority is. So priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And then these are the areas that you fill out. So I'll send this to you in a PDF so you can print this off. Also, if you want to end up with this book that I shared with you, I got it online. I'll send you the link. Um, it's a great way to keep yourself organized. It's called the dashboard. I think it was like 30 bucks. And so you can use it every single week to keep yourself accountable. I always say it's kind of like a grocery list. So, right, so every week that I have these tasks, They're different tasks each week, depending on what I need. I cross them off as I complete them, right? So it's an accountability tool, but it's also a way to just minimize all the creativity that we may have. I think sometimes we go into trainings or workshops or hear another agent talk about something, and we have what we call shiny object syndrome. So this is called a GPS, which stands for goals, priorities, and strategies. So think of it just like your phone GPS, right? Taking you to a destination. Um, it's the goal every week is to keep you on track, and the goal is to not add or subtract anything more than these three priorities. And of course, each week the priorities change based on what you need to accomplish. So I guess the skill number two is make sure you're following a written plan for the week, not for the month, not for the year, because that will keep you focused. Okay. So the third thing, it's no secret, is lead generation. But one of the things, again, trying to be simple and consistent, is we call it the core five. So finding the five things that you're going to be able to do every single day. And so I give an example all the time when I'm talking to coaching clients. Think about it, an example of, if I know I have to cut this tree down, I'm going to take this axe. And my job every day is to just keep swinging the axe at the same spot of the tree every single day. And then over time, that tree will fall, right? So one thing about lead generation I have found in 20 years of real estate myself is that I overcomplicate it. I kind of get intimidated by it. So a lot of it's just, if you can make it simple and easy, it's just like kind of like doing 10 push-ups. If you do it every single day, it just gets, it's routine, it's natural, it's systematic. You don't overthink it. So I use a system called the core five, and this is what we coach to. So you decide what these five things are, right? So this is an example. Every single day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to send an email to one of my past clients, probably updating them with a CMA attached, right? A handwritten note, right? It could be any type of handwritten note. It could be a birthday card. It could be like, hey, great, grabbing coffee with you. It could be a vendor saying, hey, I'd love, thanks for, providing great service to my client, whatever it needs to be. 4 text messages, 3 conversations, 2 social media posts, direct messages. Again, you make the decision on what your 5 things are, but they have to obviously ask for the opportunity of a referral of a business relationship, right? So I have seen so many different versions of a core five. I will tell you, don't put something down that you're not going to do. So if you're not a handwritten note person, I would not coach you to put a handwritten note, because you're going to fight it, you're going to resist it. And again, just like we talked at the beginning of this session so far, it's all about compound interest. Super important that whatever these 5 things are, that you're going to do them religiously. The last thing on the core five is it should not take all day, right? So I do my core five every morning right when I hit my desk. It takes me 30 to 45 minutes. And so I do my core five, I rip the Band-Aid off, I move on with my day. It's slightly contradictory than maybe what you've heard from other coaches or other trainers. You have to lead generate for 2 hours or whatever that may be. I have found, coaching hundreds and hundreds of agents, that 2 hours of lead generation, you're really not lead generating. You're grabbing phone numbers, you're figuring out what to say, you're right. I'd rather you spend 45 minutes doing your core five on Monday, get it done. Tuesday, get it done. The thing is about consistency. So I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it easy, and I don't want you to overthink it. Just move on. Once you get it done, you move on to the other tasks. Check your email, set your seller appointments, set your buyer appointments, right? But again, the consistency of doing this is all about, don't overthink it, make it easy to do. Okay. All right. Now, the next one is, some people love and some people hate it, but it's all about social media, right? We know that that's a vehicle that we can, especially if you're a newer agent, that you can build brand awareness and trust quickly, right? If you're doing the right posts. So pretty much every agent that I coach, they say, oh, I'm not consistent with my social media. So again, we're going to make it simple. You're not going to overcomplicate it. So I literally say we need to do 4 posts a week. And people say, well, what do you mean by posts? Is it a reel? Is it is a story? Is it on your wall? That's your choice. That's depending on your audience, right? So I will say most of my coaching clients use Instagram reels and stories. That's the heavier one. Instagram is definitely probably the the stronger one right now. But if you're heavy on Facebook, then do it that way. My thing is that you have to be, again, be consistent with that. So if you see this, a little simple grid, it's 4 a week, right? 4 weeks in a month, it's 16. So you have to at least produce 16 organic real estate posts every single month, right? So you can build it, you can schedule it if you want to, through if you're using your business side of things, and then of course sharing. How do you come up with the 4 things each week? I call it social media pillars. So you have to make a determination on what 4 days of the week you're going to post and what type of content you're going to do. But make sure it's consistent, right? They're not going to know that every Monday you post a motivational quote. They're not going to know on Thursday you post on what to do for the weekend post. But what's going to happen over time is more people are going to see it, more people are going to interact with it because they're constantly seeing that consistency. So one of the things I would say is, are you posting 16 times a month? If the answer is no, get to a point where you know that that frequency is there. And then the second thing is the consistency of the content, right? So you need to figure out the flavor or the style of these pillars make sense for you. I have one person that I coach. She does a spotlight of a property that her brokerage has a listing, or if she has a listing, she'll spot like that. And she does that on Saturday, right? So she puts a reel together. She kind of puts some captions in there, but she's always focusing on a different property, different price points, different parts of town, just to get interaction, right? The Thursday local one, a lot of people are kind of figuring out what's the fun things to do with the kids, or what's the newest restaurant, or maybe a concert in the summer, right? So things like that. All of these, if you notice, they don't all have to be connected directly to real estate. So another thing when you're doing your posts is don't drown it in real estate, right? So there's really, I would say 2 out of the 4 need to be real estate focused, and 2 out of the 4 need to be either fun, motivational, educational, or something entertaining for them to understand. If you do all of your posts on real estate, it's gonna really alienate people, even though they may want to buy or sell. It's just that we go to real estate, we go to social media to entertain ourselves, right? Or to educate ourselves, entertain or educate. And so the goal of these social media posts is to hit one of those 2 target audiences every single week. Okay. So hopefully that will give you some inspiration as you go into being more consistent with that. All right, then the next one, and you probably have heard this 1,000 times. I think when I got into real estate, I've heard more about use your database, use your database. And I'll be honest, I tell this story all the time. The first 2 years, I didn't use the database. I just sold houses, right? I just, honestly, I didn't even really listen to anyone. I was just so determined to make money and pay for what I need to pay for. And then when I started to use my database, I literally doubled my income. And so I will tell you that if you're a newer agent and you're fighting this, you're only fighting yourself. And in fact, what you're really fighting is the income that you can produce, because your database allows you to scale your business faster. It allows you to store information in one spot versus right now, you may or may not have names and phone numbers in an email, in your Gmail, in your iPhone, in a spreadsheet, and they're everywhere. So the one universal thing about a database is it puts all of that contact information in one bucket, one area. I think the universal reason why agents don't use their database is because they're clunky, right? Regardless of the system that you use, like Follow Up Boss or Bold Trail or KV Core, whatever the platform's called, you're never going to like it 100%. I still don't like, I've used 4 CRMs databases in my career, and I still don't like all of them, right? But I do know that I have to use it. So the thing on your screen here is from a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And they basically said, if you're producing at $1 million level, like these are rock star agents that have mega teams, this is the things that they use to lead generate, right, in their database. So they build their database, they feed their database, and they communicate with it, and then they service the leads. We're going to talk about in a second how to build your database. Because one thing I've seen universally, especially as a newer agent, is your database, the size of your database is too small. So you may be starting out with 50 or 100 people in your database. Of course, that's a start. Starting is better than not starting, but we'll talk about what the quantity is in a second. There's a slight formula that we'll go over. Feeding it every day means adding information to it. So if you have a database now or a spreadsheet or something that you're holding information, and it's just the person's name, phone number, email, and even address, that's not what feed it every day means. What feed it every day means is that you're constantly updating the contact with information. So maybe you're adding, if you learned about their wedding anniversary, maybe you've learned their kids' names, like they have a dog named Rover, right? Things like that. Also, when you're doing your core five, which is the activity we just talked about, you're updating your database with conversation notes. So if you texted somebody today in your core five and they replied to you and they said, hey, we're going to Disney World next week, and you're like, okay, have fun, right? I'm going in my database. I'm going to feed that information in the notes section that I'm going to say, hey, they're going to Disney World next Friday. And then when I go back into my database, setting it as a reminder, I'm going to text them a week later and say, hey, how is Disney World, right? So the one thing about a database that is so unique versus having it in your phone or in a spreadsheet is it makes you look good. It makes you feel like you're kind of constantly listening to them. I give the example all the time. I had a past client that I did my reach out to. She said she was having knee surgery. I made a note. I fed that into my database. I put a reminder to check in on her on Tuesday that following week. So all I did was a simple text on that Tuesday, say, hey, Jane, her name is Jane. I said, hey, Jane, I just want to check in on you. And I know you had knee surgery on Friday. I know it's Tuesday. Just wanted to see how you're recovering. And she said, oh my God, you're the first person that's checked on me. Even my son hasn't checked on me. And then like within 2 to 3 weeks, she actually, I don't know if it's oddly enough, I don't think it's a coincidence. She said, by the way, my sister was talking about selling their house and I wanted to make sure I connected you too. So I sold a house because I connected with her about her knee surgery. And I'll be honest, after the conversation on that Friday, I really forgot about the knee surgery, right? But because my database, I fed it, and because I automatically communicated and systematically did that, it kept it top of mind for myself. And I looked like a rock star in front of her. And then that led to the referral. So again, your database is not just a spreadsheet. Okay. So the second thing I see universally inside the database is it's a hot mess. And so if you're adding people to a database, name, phone number, emails, all that, you need to make sure that you are tagging every single human. And every single human in your database can have multiple tags, right? So maybe the tag is a vendor, right? And maybe they're a past client, right? You can have multiple tags. I will tell you there's two types of tags that I want you to differentiate. The one is what I call a quality tag. So this is the type of a tag that's going to start over time, going to start to show you where your VIPs are, like where your people that like really are advocating for you and giving you referrals. And the second is the type, which is what we're most commonly using groups for. Like you'd put the tag vendor or past client or friend or someone from church, right? So the type is the most common way people use groups or tags. But I'll tell you the quality tag, the referral quality tag will help you in the future figure out where you're going to spend your money and spend your time. So looking at the screen, A plus, multiple referrals. They've given you multiple referrals this year. So even if they didn't work out, but if they gave you their sister and their mother, they gave you those leads this year, they're an A plus. So I'm going to literally have a tag that says A plus. A, they gave you one. B, no referrals, but you think they're going to do that. C is unknown, right? So C often is new people you've added to your database or maybe open house leads. So you're still kind of discovering if they're going to be a good quality lead. I see people say that past clients are always the referral. That's not true, right? So a past client bought one house from you. They've given you 0 referrals. So if you have a past client tag, that's fine. That's the type. but don't add them as an A plus, because if they haven't given you their brother and their sister, they're not an A plus yet. If they've given you one referral, then yes, they are. So most likely, if they're a past client, they're going to be a B in your quality tag. The reason why this is so important is when you're making decisions on if you're going to do a client event, or if you're going to pop by and give them something, if you're going to mail them something, all that stuff costs money. And if you're sending things in the mail, or you're planning an event, or you're paying for things, and you're paying for everybody in your database, it's not a good return on your investment. Eventually, over time, you're going to see this separation in your database. The top portion of the A plus, the A's, those top two quality referrals, are going to be what we call the 20 percenters, right? So 20% of your database is going to give you 80% of the business. So those are going to be the cream of the crop. Those two are going to be the highest quality type of people. And that will then be the people that you need to hang out with more, right? You're going to be spending more money on them, more time on them. People that are B's and C's, they're going to get the free stuff, right? They're going to get emails from you monthly. Those are free. They're going to do just general invites to open houses and things like that. They may hear from you a few times a year, but you're not going to spend your money and your time on those lower quality people until they give you a referral, right? And so the huge, huge skill of not putting everybody as an A or an A plus, you're not categorizing your database in a proper way, and then it's really affecting how much money you're spending. Okay. So we talked about how large your database needs to be. Again, this is probably one of the biggest things as a newer agent. You need to look at the size of your database. So if you're using your database, great. If you're not, you need to start to use one, and you need to know how many contacts you've added, right? So this just gives kind of a formula of kind of how to figure it out. I'm going to go to this box at the bottom, so kind of keep it simple for us today. If I want to make $150,000, my average commission in this example is $9,000. That means I'm going to basically need to sell 17 houses. So that's just simple math. That's just kind of how it crumbles, right? But there's what we call an opportunity rate, and then there's a conversion rate. These are numbers that have been tested and tried and true. They adjust a little bit every year. So this is as of 2024, 25. These numbers are absolutely accurate. This number comes from asking high producing agents in our industry how many contacts they have in their database versus how many they've actually closed from their database. So this is a real number. And so if I'm going to need to sell 17 houses to hit that goal this year, I have a 6.3% conversion rate for my database. So it's 6% conversion rate. So it's not a high percentage, but it's still a very good percentage. 6 to 10 is kind of the industry range anyway. So I would have to have 266 contacts. It's just math. 17 divided by 6.73% gets you to 266. 266, but then you have just a natural conversion rate. So you go on a listing appointment. One person's going to say, yes, I want to list with you. One person's going to say, no, I want to list with Joe Smith for whatever reason. There's most likely about a 75% conversion rate. I love for you to say you're going to go on every appointment and you're going to get every listing or every buyer, but that's just not how real estate works, because there's a batting average. The batting average industry is around 75%, right? So taking all those numbers and calculating all that, it spits out 354 people. So it knows how many deals, it knows what your opportunity rate is, and it knows how you're going to close and convert appointments. I will tell you, 350 is almost the magic number that I see universally. When I'm a new agent, the first thing I do is I want to get them to 350 contacts in their database. And then it can grow from there. I have clients that are now in 600, 700. But if you're a newer agent and you don't know the quantity you have, first of all, you need to look. And if you don't have 350, 354 as this example, you got to work to get there. I don't want you to put junk in, so I don't want you to put random strangers in there just to get the number up. But one of your first objectives is to keep adding people to your database, right? So go through your phone, go through your Gmail, go through spreadsheets, go through kids directories, schools, anything like that. You probably know more people than you think, and you're probably missing their information because it's some random place, and you need to physically add it to your database. So do a database audit, and if you're not at least at 350 contacts, in my opinion, that's the number where you kind of need to hit. And if you're at 350, create a little goal for yourself. Let's get it to 400 in 6 months. Let's get it from 400 to 450 in another 6 months. Incrementally growing that as you go forward, right? So super important. All right, the next, there's only kind of two left, and we'll kind of wind down as we go through this. But um, a pipeline is one of the most important skills and tools. And I'm going to say skill because you got to really start to use it and understand it's like the dashboard of your car, right? So it's going to give you alarm bells. It's going to show you things that maybe your database isn't showing you, right? So I know people talk about the database a lot. I talk about the pipeline more because the pipeliners only people that have raised their hand that say they might want to buy or sell with you. And we have seen over the last 3 years that people stay in an agent's pipeline longer because they're not as motivated to buy or sell. So you may meet someone at an open house, put them in your pipeline. You're going to nurture them for 2 years, right? Before they even freaking buy a house, right? Because they got to figure out what they're going to do with credit scores and interest rates and down payment money and all that. So a second, and I'm going to send this tool to you, and I'm going to click in this, is to actually use a pipeline consistently and start to see the little dashboard, which I'm going to show you. You also need to set a goal for yourself inside that pipeline. So we talk about, setting a goal for yourself obviously at the beginning of the year. But I'll tell you, if you want to sell, let's say 12 houses in the first quarter, it's not rocket science. If you don't have enough leads, you're not going to sell that. You're not going to hit your goal. So your pipeline is the best predictor. It's the crystal ball of a future to see if you're actually going to hit your goals. And if you're not hitting your goals, it allows you to go, oh, okay, I need to lead generate more. I need to market myself more. I need to go those 5 bubbles. I need to go find more people to network with, right? So it allows you to be more proactive rather than reactive. So how we set the goal is pretty simple. It's about a conversion rate. So if you have a goal of 12 units for first quarter, I would always coach you to have at least double that of what I call A and B leads, which are leads that are A leads right here. A leads are going to buy or sell with you in 30 days. B leads are going to buy or sell with you to 60 to 90 days. So if you're watching this in January, anybody who's buying right now in January is an A. Anybody who's buying in February and March, buying or selling, is going to be a B. I want you to only focus on the A's and B's. That's the closest to a paycheck. Those are the highest quality leads that you have in your pipeline. And those are the ones that you can either have constructive conversations with, show properties, like they're the ones that you're really active. C's will always bump up, right? So add C's to it. You can have plenty of C's in your pipeline, but it's just like I was talking about with the quality in the conversation with your tagging. Your A's and B's are your quality of like more of a guarantee or more of a likelihood of making money for yourself and your business. C's you can't always predict. Number one, if they're maybe further out. So if they want to buy a house in October, put them as a C. You need money in October, but they're not your highest priority. That's not part of this goal for connected to your pipeline, if that makes sense. So I'm going to log into I've used a spreadsheet style like this for many years. I have some people that use this exact spreadsheet. I have some people that use a dry erase board and kind of a dry erase board and put it in their office so they can see it visually. And then I have a lot of people that use it in their CRM and they start grouping and tagging things similarly so they can start to see it. But let me just really quickly walk you through kind of the dashboard part. So here's the ranking, A, B, C, right? So if the lead is a seller, or a buyer, or if they're both, if they need to sell a house, they need to buy a house, you're going to rank them, right? So if they're going to be an A, they're going to, expected list date's going to be January, right? So they're most likely going to list their house with you in January if they're an A. If they want to list in, July, that's fine, but that's not an A. That would be a C because that's not that 90-day window, right? So that's great. Notes help me or help you to just for follow-up, kind of jog your memory on where this lead came from or what their situation is, maybe credit score, whatever it is. This is just a tally tracker. So as you add leads and you put numbers in there, that it's just going to tally up the number of leads you have. When you got the referral or when you actually added them. So if you did an open house and you did that in September, you know when that happened. And then of course the lead source, right? So if I am working really hard on social media and open houses, if I don't see that in my pipeline, if I'm your coach, I'm going to be like, well, why am I not seeing that? Like, what's that return on that investment, right? Expected list date or under contract date is the golden, like, this is the main point of this. Our goal is to give you as much of a prediction, right, of your income going forward. So if I have a goal to sell 4 houses in the first quarter, I've got to look at this and go, okay, I mean, I got 3 right here, but they don't seem very motivated. So either I need to reach out to them and see if they're actually going to do something like that. So I can start to see, do I have enough leads in the pocket in the window of the time I need them? Expected listing price, search price. So this is a guess most often, or this is like if they're pre-approved for a seller or for a buyer, you kind of know that number. If you kind of have an idea of what that listing price is. The reason why that's in there is because all we can do is our best is predicting your income, right? So it has a broker split. If you have a split or a flat fee, if you have to pay a TC or if you're on a team, things like that. So I get motivated by quantity of how many leads I have in this pipeline, but the money shows up, right? So this particular person, if that was an A, I'm like, I'm gonna get this baby listed because I want $7,800 into my bank account, right? And so that kind of shows that. Once these leads do something, so they list their property with you or they go under contract, you're gonna copy and paste. And this is an example of a spreadsheet. You're gonna copy and paste it down on the dashboard below. So if they list their property with you, now it's in either coming soon or active status. You move it down. If it goes under contract, you're going to copy and paste it down. And of course, once you close it, you're going to pop it in here. The blessing and the curse of that is this is the pipeline, which is these top 2 things. These are transactions. These are very different, right? So I have coaching clients all the time. They'll say, oh, I got 3 houses under contract this month. I'm like, great. But that affects your pipeline because if these 3 sellers go under contract, now you're short. Now you need to go find new ones for your pipeline. Okay. Again, and this is where you set your goal. So if your goal is again to sell, 14 houses in the first quarter, again, this is by the quarter, then you need to set goals based on that. Okay. So just want to make sure that you know that this is a huge, I will tell you, I've had many agents say that this is the thing, this is the one, number one, the skill of you just consistently looking at it all the time and updating it all the time, but you using it has made them more money than anything else because it allows them to be better with their follow up. It allows them to be more consistent with knowing what their business is, so they're not stressed about money or less stressed about money, and they also see gaps in their business, so if they can get ahead of it. They're like, oh, February I don't have anything in my pipeline. Well, let me start trying to get something in my pipeline for February, right? So super important connected to that. Okay. And that's where I would just say we got to keep going with the skills. So you'll see in February, we're going to have pricing and listings. Um, right now, if you're a newer agent, one of the things I will tell you is your skills on pricing listings right now is going to be super important. We literally see so many overpriced listings right now. Price reductions are crazy high. So if you want to join us in February, we're going to do a pricing or listing, like a little mini training, right? It's not going to be, again, overly complicated, but it's the best way to come up with the most accurate price in the market. But the second part of February's training is about your presentation skills and CMAs. I think sometimes, whether you're new or you have experience, how you present the price to your seller makes all the difference. So we're going to go through strategies with that. It's really important for you to do that. And then, of course, in March, we're going to talk about really home inspections and repair addendums and overcoming objections on things like that. Because I hate to say it, but 1 out of 7 deals right now are falling apart because of a home inspection. So that's kind of where I want you to go for the first quarter. I want you to keep working on these skills as a newer agent. Um, and then we'll go into pricing and negotiations in the months to come. If you ever need a coach or any resources, I'm here for you. This is kind of our pricing strategies here. So most common is the one-on-one coaching for $395. If you're not able to kind of do that yet, we do have what we call a 2-week blitz. So it's kind of a 2-week program where we will help you build that GPS that I showed you. We'll identify your bubbles. We'll do all the things we just talked about. We'll go through the pipeline. So the Blitz is a 2-week program. It's a flat fee, so it's kind of simple and pretty cost effective. If you need anything, let me know on that. And then this is a QR code to our Google review. If you kind of found something that was valuable today, I would love for you to kind of chat with or send me a review on that. So if there's anything else you need, I'll send you this recording and the presentation. But I think the biggest thing I want you to go away with is the very first slide is compound effect, right? Everything you do as a newer agent, it's consistency beats intensity, right? You've got to make sure when we're going through those 5 or 6 activities we just talked about, you're consistently doing it, right? And then tracking everything. So that is it for today. I'll send the recording and the recap of all this to you shortly. If you have any more questions, of course, reach out. Otherwise, have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you and see you hopefully at next month's